Wonderful. Friends, welcome to this beautiful session on making informed decisions for a better tomorrow. Thank you so much, Sachin. You got an AI coming in there, so it'll help us decipher what we are doing, interpret it, and take notes out here. Friends, a short session, a very short session, we promise you. We will let you go for lunch and we'll help you make informed decisions for a better tomorrow. That's the theme that we have today here. Anybody wants to give a context? Sanjay, context on the session here?
Yeah,
Rajesh, Sachin? Yeah, go ahead.
I think the larger point that I wanted to talk was regarding the what is the changing, how the things are changing in the landscape in industry. Most of the safety professionals are are working in a particular way, but I think the way now it is required to undergo change. Most of the safety professionals, they look for compliance, audits, PP enforcement, then SOP updates, toolbox meetings. But that's fine. But is that the only, what companies are really looking for? Today's the board members, they are looking for risk exposure. They are looking for ESG ratings. They are looking for investor confidence, brand reputation, and business continuity. So safety is no longer operational, but it has also become financial. Should we call such people as safety economists? That's what some people are
Wonderful.
asking. That should we be only a safety engineer or safety professional or safety economist, which would mean that we convert the risk into financial impact. We link the safety to EBI TDA, which is earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization protection. Can we connect HSC and ESG? Of course, they are linked, but can we move towards mainly ESG through the route of HSC? Can we start talking the business language? And basically, can we protect the enterprise value? That is what is being discussed in today's world. Old thinking is how many incidents did we reduce? New thinking is how much business risk did we eliminate? This is what is being discussed. If you can't explain the cost of one fatality, the financial impact of shutdown, and the investor impact on ESG failure, then leadership won't see safety as a strategic tool. And that therefore, in the coming decade, the professionals will have to understand what is risk, understand the financial risk, understand the governance, and should have the ability to influence leadership. So it is no more just a mandated compliance. So according to me, safety economist is going to be better than staying a compliance officer. Thank you very much.
Wonderful, Sanjay, sir. Sheikh Sanjay has given a nice context there. It's so heartening to hear him pop the right questions. Some things on the top of the mind, all the questions we always wanted to ask, but perhaps didn't get an audience there. So at the outset, friends, can you see the screen? Can you see the full screen as we see? Sanjay, full screen. Ekta, full screen. Subi, full
Yeah,
screen. Okay,
perfect.
super. So what we'll try and do, and I'll try and do one thing, Sanjay. I'll try and address your questions from the context that we have of what I've learned across my journey across various years. And I myself began the journey as in a role in tech transfer there. That's my academics. And across my roles here, I have done starting from tech transfer to manufacturing to tech to NPD to managing quality assurance, HR, then getting into HSE, then operational excellence, quality, business excellence across various hats I've worn in my years there. I also learned a lot of things across time, engaged with various leaders from whom I learned a lot of things here. from Dr. Ghada in my first companies, from Mr. Bharat Puri from Asian Paints, who now in Pidilite, and moved on, the father of wind, Tulsi Tanti, to the oil and gas industry, to the pharma industry, GP Prasad, to all the leaders who have made a major impact. Murli, you recognize Chandra and Ratan Tata, and of course, the entire leaders who made an impact on me. I will try and see how I can connect all the questions that Sanjay asked on the role of a safety professional. I was, like I said, I spent 25 years in manufacturing, came into quality assurance, did TQM, did business excellence, and then got into health safety, then sustainability, and now I'm a combination, a rolling stone there. How does it all work? How can you combine all this? Let's try and answer these questions through some stories and we'll try and make it interesting. When Sanjay spoke about the economics of ESG, I'm reminded of one of my first classes I had in IIM Ahmedabad, where the dean at that time, Professor Bakul Dolakia spoke about economics. It was a 45-minute masterclass, but it started with the basics and took the guys to the level of expertise that one can never imagine. Economics for non-economics guys, you can say. And the stories he told about where it started in India, the Hawala, and finally where it ended, and the state of economics in India. I think that was very interesting. So we'll try and connect with a lot of stories, and let's hope this session, the next 90 minutes, stays interesting here. Friends, the final frontier. Today is this day, the 14th of March, the final frontier. In the chat box, anyone, what is the final frontier? What is it got to do with March? What is March 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th, 14th got to do the final frontier? Anyone here? Any sports lover in the conversation understands what it is? Put that in the chat box here. The final frontier today is something to do with the city of joy. Yeah, Ekta, city of joy. And this is the defining moment which had India breaking the final frontier. Any idea what this is, friends? Anyone in the chat box here? Somebody's doing the thumbs up. Indeed, yes, it is cricket. Yes, it is. But it's not what you're saying. It's not the recent one. It is 25 years ago where the Great Wall, Rahul Dravid, yes, Lakshman Dravid in Australia. Rajesh, a big hand to you. Absolutely, Rajesh has cracked it. 25 years ago at Eden Gardens, India broke the final frontier. Saurav Ganguly, Harbhajan Singh, VVS Lakshman, and Rahul Dravid did the impossible. They managed to break the hegemony of Australian supremacy. Steve Waug's final frontier, a win at India was thwarted. India won the series 3-2. This is that day of the year, friends. Yeah, thank you so much. Welcome, Priyanka. So, friends, coming back to recent achievements here, a lot of celebrities out here, a lot of winners out there. You can see a lot of people who won various trophies, including the last one out here. Which is the most memorable of these? Who's the guy? Which of these is the one that really strikes you as something out of the ordinary, something that's going beyond? So there were times when I think at the Narendra Modi Stadium some years back, we were expected to win, but didn't. This time again, we were expected to win, we won. Saurav Ganguly, as we spoke, from the betting controversy, came in, did a lot of transformation to Indian team, made the culture different. MS Dhoni is the Talibar. He had the maximum crowns to his, benefit here. But the one man who, and we were minnows in the entire scheme there. India wasn't an entity in global sports at all. In 1983, that beautiful day of June at Lords, we got the crown against the invincible West Indies team. In that 80s, West Indies was top of the form out here. And recently, since then, it was the year of Australia, and perhaps now it's time of India to rule here. There's one interesting story that Kapil Dev recounts. When he first arrived in Australia for a cricket tour, he famously misunderstood a welcoming question because of the Australian language. And the official asked him at the hotel, "Have you come here to die?" Normally, the Australians call today to die. And Kapil Dev being threatened, his English wasn't so great then, nor is it so great now. A bewildered Kapil Dev said, "No, we come here to play." And I guess that's the journey there. But talking of Australia and talking of the journey there, what is this session all about? This session is about making decisions. What the ultimate decision in life? A lot of my Facebook friends, actually, when the birthdays come up, I sadly find that they are no more in this world here. So, what is the ultimate decision? And this comes in from something that you are not aware of so far. And this is something that we want you to listen to first. So, ultimate decision in life, listen to this video. It's in Australian English, and we hope you'll be able to make out the sounds. It also subscribes there. This is the final decision, the ultimate decision in life. Not when do you want to die, but how do you want to die? Something what they asked Kapil Dev. Listen on.
Um, Shankar, we can't hear though, but it can go on for screen mode. That also will be nice. Sorry, we can read through.
Okay. So that's why I check this. Sound not coming through?
For me,
No,
Shankar.
sir, there's no sound in the video.
Okay, we did the sound, friends. No sound check. This is going to be a crisis if you not got the sound. No sound. Try this again. No sound again.
No sound.
Okay, let's try this. The challenges of okay, let's see if the sound works. Let me know if this works.
Set option for your execution.
Any sound here?
Yeah, it's working
Yes,
now.
it comes.
Okay.
Execution by electric chair takes a lot of energy. It amounts to an emission of about 1 carbon ton. By ticking that box, you can offset the emissions.
Oh, well, what do most people do?
Most people do it.
Yeah, most people do it. It's only an extra $10. You want me to pay for my own execution? And help create a more sustainable future. Sustainable future? You're about to kill me.
Well, for other people.
What do I get?
We plant a tree.
What kind of tree?
Do you know what kind of?
Nice one. Oh, definitely nice one.
Yeah, but don't skimp. It's a good. You'd like it. Would you say that you're concerned about your planet in general?
Not at this very moment.
If you were, we do offer. Hey, lad, could you bring in the? We do offer another alternative. It's a wind-powered execution.
Much greener option.
Then why don't you use it all the time?
Oh, well, it has its pros and cons.
It's definitely greener, but it takes a bit longer.
How long?
14 days.
15 days. 15 cops.
We give you books and magazines to pass the time.
Free Bible.
But it's definitely greener.
Oh, it's incredibly green when you go.
Definitely, yeah.
What? All right, sure. Let's go with that then, yeah?
Wind turbine fueled
You feeling anything?
execution.
Not really, no.
Not even a slight sense of electrocution.
Sorry.
Okay, Caleb, stop it. Just quietly. The family of the woman that you murdered in the viewing area as you can see, are getting a little impatient. They want us to hurry things up. Hey.
But an audience.
So we might just have to go back to plan A. I think that's okay with you. Why don't we just take a chair outside?
What are you talking about?
Well, I was thinking that maybe the problem is that there's not enough wind in here to power the turbine. Not exactly a drafty room. But if we took the chair out onto an open flame, probably get the job done in next to no time.
Yeah.
Like something.
Yeah, I like that. I really like that.
Oh, actually, it's much windier.
I think that's going to do the trick. That was a great suggestion. Where's he gone? There he is.
Oh, crap.
So friends, interesting video, Australian dark humor. But I guess this is now how you want sudden death, prolonged death, a green death. This is what the world could be coming into. I hope the sound here was audible. Rajesh, I hope the sound was good. Towards the end, we did a screen test on the full screen and the sound, but I guess some things don't work here. Right? Friends, so I guess in life, the end stage is when we get on to the ventilator. And this is where I guess importantly the decision we make, and some of us have donated organs, some of us have done a lot of things here. What kind of death would you assume is what we look at here. And also I want to reach out to some people, some of you who have got the right answers. Sachin, Rajesh, I hope all of you can hear this. Rajesh, let me know in case the sound's not so clear. You spoke, you got them right. Sachin says, what about Sachin? He didn't win a World Cup, he didn't win a trophy, but I guess he was there. But this is the story of how the journey progresses and how I connect with the Australian language out here. So friends, talking of languages here, we also had, ladies and gentlemen, this is the one show that you're waiting for here. You've been through this, right? You have heard this. Some of you have been through this rock space here. Listen to the music, listen to the sound, and waiting for the next steps, the revenge. When is it coming? When is this show coming? And this is the revenge. And this is the time when you'll get to hear this. Yeah. So friends, whether you're ready for this or not, this is the time for a replay, a recap. So what are we ready for? So friends, a long time ago, around 2 years ago, we did a session demystifying ESG, explaining ESG, the entire history from where it came from to the logics out, how it works here, how does it work for a safety professional, what are the tools we can use, and on popular demand, we will do a recap. We'll try and do a little bit on that also. This session, welcome again. This is Turandar, the second, the sequel, how we can leverage ESG as the question and the context we had at the beginning. How can we use it as a tool for making better decisions for a better tomorrow, a safer, smarter, more sustainable tomorrow? So that is what we got to do out here. And to begin, let's kind of brief on today's plans out here. What we intend to do is talk of, and we've spoken of some of these earlier, the 5 W's and the 1 H. The where, the when, the how, the who. And we covered some of these in the last session here. We'll try and recap some of these. Where did it all begin? It all began right here in ancient India. The sustainability sessions that we learned on managing water, on managing waste, the traditional architecture that we had before all this high-tech technology came in here, agriculture, the sustainable, the philosophy, the minimalism, the localism, all these. And you've seen some of these in the step wells where even, in fact, the pictures that you had of the World Cup winning captain Suryakumar Yadav also was taken in a step well that are built around the sophisticated rainwater harvesting philosophy right in Ahmedabad here. So this is where this comes from here. The how can we contribute and who can contribute? It's us. All of you need to contribute here. And how do you do that? By taking challenges each day of the month. This is the last month of the financial year, but each day you begin looking at things you can do, looking at how in various ways you'll be able to contribute small things, and look at your score across the month here. That's a sustainability challenge for all of us, having a green calendar. How we can take, in the new financial year, you always take resolutions. How can we take resolutions for each of these? For example, the bottle that you speak, stay no to plastics, get in metal, get in plastics, get in out of plastics, and unplug devices when not in use. One of the long times ago, I watched a movie called The Inconvenient Truth by Al Gore. And this was a movie where for the first time I realized, I don't know what happened. For the first time, I switched off my TV from the mains, my remote control, the set-top box from the mains. I switched off all the mains here. So unplugging devices are not in use, good safety practices, good sustainable practices, all these reducing paper towels, all these are practices you can do here. We also spoke about trips, ticks and ticks, how to reduce an email that you send, the measure of each of what we do. Each of us can contribute to reducing our own carbon footprint. Ask not what the country can do, ask what you can do for the country. India has taken a target of net carbon neutrality at the Glasgow Convention. How do we try and go beyond? How can we do better? How can we measure, reduce, offset? You also have carbon footprint calculators. We spoke about how you as a family can also be net carbon neutral, how you can offset your personal carbon footprints there. For SMEs, for individuals, we spoke and we shared this in the last presentation, how we can reduce our own footprints there, how we can use the tools, like the footprint calculator. There's so many that you can use. The UN carbon footprint calculator, the simplest ones. You can estimate your commute, you can estimate your lifestyle, you can estimate what you're doing out here. And of course, the various ways by which you can use all of the tools. There's the pros and cons. Offsetting, of course, is not any longer an option. It's a mandate now here. And again, for all of us, even in the current times, we have colleagues coming in from Singapore, colleagues in the call from Middle East. How do we conserve energy, use public transport, currently the safest way to do it? How we do what we do, how we can drive smarter, how we can carpool. And like we are doing here in OHSSAI also, having a webinar online rather than a physical event to reduce the overall connectivity out here. Each of what we do can make an imprint. Each of what, even the brushing that we say that we brush 3 times a day for 3 minutes each. But how do we do? What do we do? How do we, what kind of tools we use? One bamboo toothbrush is equivalent to brushing with 4 plastic toothbrushes. So while you floss your teeth or whatever you use, the bags you use, the cups you use, understand the impact of all that we do. So friends, these are all the tiny habits. When I spoke about the inconvenient truth, these are the ones that anchor our behavior and celebrate small successes. This is how we can lead sustainable lifestyles. So this is what we spoke about here. And I guess this is again a story which got me to transform my thoughts. This happened when I was in a refinery, an oil and gas plant in the west coast of India. And this, when I saw the movie, this struck me. There's always something that changes the way you look at things here. And that moment is what we're looking for. Hopefully, this session, this 90 minutes will help us modify our lifestyle and try and lead a more sustainable lifestyle here. You've seen this latest bill out here, right? The one that talks of gas now. Each bill, each of what we speak, each of what we have is now a choice. The flights we take, the carbon footprint we have, all of these are available now. The tools that we have, plus the AI tools, can help us understand and make smart decisions to offset our footprint, a carbon footprint, a water footprint. So in an industry, switch off something, reuse, waste heat recovery, replace old, aging, inefficient equipment. All these are the ways that you can really do well here. So reduction of carbon footprint is something that will end up to the global world, the global economy to reduce the global warming. So all these, and we're talking of the ships stuck in the Gulf of Hormuz, so how the routes, the routing that we do for the raw materials for the products, get it by rail rather than by air, by ship or by road. These are the ways we can do it. Look at alternate energy sources. A lot of people speak about the impact of solar, wind, renewables. So that's the impact that we need to do. So simple things we spoke about how we can, in the times of the crisis, also focus on reducing the carbon footprint there. So buying emergency, going digital again, simplest way, walking to work, cycling to work, eliminate the plastic, speak about switching to renewables, using less water when you take your bath, when you brush your teeth, all that works in. We also explained the why of ESG, the how of ESG, also the steps to do that. Also,
how do I start reporting? GRI recommends a 5-step process. Prepare. Consider what your sustainability report might contain. What are your organization's major impacts? Develop an action plan and hold a kickoff meeting. Connect. Identify your key stakeholders and talk to them. The aim is to find out what your key stakeholders consider to be the most important sustainability topics that your organization should manage and report on. Define. Based on your stakeholder engagement, conduct an internal assessment with management. This will indicate the topics for your report that are most important, both internally and externally. Consider your organization's scope of influence, capacity, and commitments. This helps to decide how your organization's activities will be covered in the report. Monitor. Check processes and systems. Monitor activities and record data, ensuring the quality of information. Set performance goals and follow up. Report. Write your report and communicate it. When you have completed the 5 steps, your organization will have the resources in place to keep monitoring its performance so you can constantly manage your sustainability impacts and report your sustainability progress.
So again, understanding who's your target audience. A lot of people have big, tomes, 260-page reports. Uh, I don't know how many of the people actually read this sustainability report. So understanding the audience and maybe a coffee table conversation or a small 24-page book, a summary of what you're doing here, the highlights. These are good directions to think of. The how of ESG talks a little bit about all of that out here. We also spoke about the journey and indicative journey, how you begin with the current state analysis, begin with the capacity and capability building, stakeholder engagement, understanding, as we just spoke about, the materiality, what's relevant for the organization, and also relevant for the stakeholders there, understanding and building the materiality metrics, looking at the basics, carbon, water, waste, and overall goal setting would be important here. Reduction for these works for all industries, not just the ones we spoke about. It could be for any kind of tech industry as well. The entire value chain in, and just we call not the supply chain, the value chain sustainability is what's important. Look at data collection and publication of reports. In India, it will be more the BRSR that's relevant here, but then the CDP, the climate and water disclosures, the TCFD, the science-based targets, integrated reports, and we spoke also about the ratings, the impact of all the ratings there, and product stewardship. So this is what we spoke about, including taking targets, carbon neutral, water neutral, waste neutral, and also about urban above, built on the backdrop of being an employer of choice. It's all about the people, a sustainable supply chain we spoke about. And that's how this journey for ESG reporting begins. And we speak about all of these. All of you are aware in some ways how this works. Understanding the maturity of the process here. How do you do it? Identify the key cross-functional stakeholders, identifying the sponsors, identify them, conduct capacity building, capability development, do the assessment of baseline, get the top management involved there, identify the key issues, look at peer benchmarking to build the entire materiality, prioritize them because you can't boil the ocean, report, develop a blueprint, ensure that you finalize the performance indicators, look at the data. And it's a lot of data that comes in, lots of tools available now to help you finalize the report. Finally, draft the outcome, look at the stakeholder, look at the audience, and coordinate and finally release the report to various channels of communication. The tools that we have now are tremendous here, but understanding the key stakeholders, the audience, and engaging them, building an inclusive materiality map is a lot of what the stakeholder engagement and material is all about. So once again, to summarize, capacity building, capability development, on-site reviews, the materiality assessment, implementation support, data collection, analysis, report writing. This is what goes into an implementation roadmap, folks. So again, just to summarize a recap of identifying what's the priorities, what do you jump at, science-based target is what you normally take to net zero. The country has a lot of mandates there. Each of the states also has taken targets from the SDGs to the priorities on each of these pillars there. How do you take the targets? How do you look at the neutrality? How do you focus towards net neutral? We did a session on the net carbon neutral, the SBTI. But again, we also had a look at some of the frameworks, each of the frameworks, actually, the GRI, the UN Global Compact, the SDGs, how we report integrated. Even the BRSR is one way of having one report. Earlier, the Carbon Disclosure Project, the CDP and the BRSR. We also compared each of these in terms of the scope, the guidance, the point of view, the target audience, who this addresses, and also each framework, what the kind of focus there. Like the GRI focuses on all of the ESG, the CDP focuses largely on the environmental governance, like the SDG. So again, this is where you could get a hang of what tool, what reporting framework to use. Each of these has a pros and the cons. There is a pull and a push. And we'll also talk about where it comes from. How do you decide? We'll talk about that in a bit here. And the various frameworks, there are regulations, the reporting frameworks, and there are global goals. So this is where all these frameworks align. just take you through a fast refresher for all of you who, some of you might not have been in the last session here. So friends, what we need now is total audience engagement to get to the ESG omnibus, to understand how we can leverage the tools of ESG to make informed decisions. So let's strap on our belts and get set for an exciting journey in the world of sustainability. Right, friends, this is where the official session, Dhurandhar 2, the revenge begins here. Let me talk about my story here. And I began in a mine, which was, a place, a government company, a PSU called Navy Lignite Corporation. I then went on to a this was actually Aditya Birla Group company doing textiles, doing rayons. They went on to Gerda Chemicals, got into Asian Paints, into manufacturing, like I spoke, got into BP. BP had its virtues. I got in for various reasons. There were challenges thereof also. A lot of green things done there. And of course, there was the focus on, you know, the entire journey began where we went into renewables. The BP went into the Middle East. The alternative energy kind of was the big thing here. The reasons why we'll get into. I went into refinery and oil and gas, where I had that uh, moment where I decided to be different here. How does a refinery get into sustainability here? A very sustainable company. Some of you work there. Dr. D's was already doing sustainable 20 years when he came in here. What's the difference? What is the journey? What was the initiation? What we started and why we did what we did is again a story I'll talk about. Pfizer played big brother there. Some of you work there also. How did it do its supply chain sustainability? How did it get all the suppliers into a pharmaceutical supply chain initiative where not only did it help its suppliers, but also got them to levels of maturity there. A project company, how a project company really had its equation in sustainability, and of course, how this got into understanding and building sustainability journey there, into renewables, into solar, into a company that went into the rating, the listing, and how that happened here, and the story of Granules, which had a poor rating, and how does this drive the company into doing stuff there. And again, various companies that got into the Piazza journey, how hard to abate industries did that. And a last stint in the Rio Tinto, how this comes in here. So friends, the story I want to say is where ESG comes from here. In the first company, like I said, there was a spate of incidents. We spoke at the beginning of where does safety come in. So I think safety is at the heart of all that we do. The ultimate bottom line is, and I'll explain this in the course of the session, all about people there. That's the ultimate bottom line. So beginning a safety cultural transformation almost in my first gig was where this entire thing told me that this is something that needs to sustain here. And manufacturing rayons in Aditya Birla Group, a lots of textile washing and a lot of chemicals that was used in the dyeing process, in the use of the chemical, in the bleaching that went waste. My first project as a budding engineer was to recycle these to liquid the solvents, the rayon solvent, the wash solvents, and try and recover some of the chemicals that were used here. The typical RRR, the reduce, reuse, recycle, also is the ancient set of principles we spoke about where it came from that helps in resource management. I got into an insecticide company in Gujarat, in Ankleshwar, the most polluted industry, the most polluted industrial estate, they say at that time, maybe it still is slightly better, which was taken over by Gada Chemicals. But this was the first industry that set up a incinerator and a zero liquid discharge plant. What's so unique about setting up a ZLD is what you ask. But again, this was one of the first industries to do this before the pollution control boards actually mandated it. So this was before going ahead of compliance, which as Sheikh Sanjay said, it's also one of what explains going ahead of compliance. It's not the tick in the box always that helps, it's also going beyond. So going ahead of compliance, setting up the first incinerator in the state where it was not called for, doing a zero liquid discharge plant, although it had some hazardous chemicals, also is one step of going beyond here. Asian Paints was an interesting company. Some of you in the audience also are from Asian Paints, Raman. So this had a product called Apcolite Royal, the premium decorative paint here. This was launched, and one of the launches was primed around Diwali, the Happy Diwali as we speak, a festival of India. But there was a major fire in the mother plant in Mumbai, in Bandup, and because of which we had to struggle to find an alternate supplier. A couple of plants, we did a substantial capacity expansion and managed to deliver the product not where it was intended, but where it in different other plants here in Patancheru and Ankleshwar. So business continuity, managing challenges that happens because of disruptions also is one form of getting into sustainability here. Castrol, Sanjay, we worked together. The quality transition, we had all the ISO standards there. This company had it all, but that's when all the OEM majors came in. The Hyundais, the Nissans, the Ashok Leyland India already was there. The Fords, they came in the expectations of FMEAs, design of experiments. All of these came in. The ISO, from the ISOs to the TS 16949. So the quality transition was largely guided by the OEM expectations of total quality management there. So what you do is not just the standards, not just compliance or going beyond also. It's ahead of time. We're talking of the late 80s, but also looking at what the customer or the standards demand, the OEM's demands here. Like I mentioned, we set up the first wind farm in a place in Dhule in Maharashtra, and this was BP there. Why would a British company, British Petroleum, set up a wind turbine farm in a country like India, in a developing at that stage economy? And of course, the reason was to earn carbon footprints, to earn carbon credits through zero incidents. But, and talk of the global north in a minute, but the effort was to seek their global footprints reduction. There's a mandate there to make up for all the emissions that actually began with the industrial revolution. In the 1850s, this is where it all began. Not anywhere else in the world, not definitely in China or India, but it began not even in the US, it was in Europe and parts of this that had the actual global warming is caused by the GHG emissions that's generated around the 1850s here. And that's the reason why that's the mandate on them to do what we do. Cut to a refinery, setting up the biggest refining hub in the world. This is the West Coast here. Largely inspired by our global ambitions to set shop in UK. We tried to acquire a refinery. I was part of a due diligence. They went to Shell, a standalone refinery, still part of the enterprise here in Chester, near Manchester. And you guess what? When you go for a merger and acquisition, you are given a red carpet there. But you stopped at the control room and said, "Jo bhi dekhna idhar hi dekho." Have a look, ask all the questions there. And more than us asking questions, it was Shell asking us questions. So the maturity of a company also is defined by its bandwidth to be able to ask the right questions. And this is why even a customer you're about to acquire, a refinery you're about to acquire, give a pushback. And that's what started the journey of this company, which is now Naira Energy, to get into sustainability. Murli will understand this. Dr. Reddy's, Priyanka, you've been there, done that. A very mature company, but it faced due diligence from customers like GSK and the focus and a couple of incidents there and the focus on why the openness and transparency need to be higher. But where it came through from diversity, I remember we spoke about diversity, and there was a person from Sustainalytics called and said, "What's your definition of diversity? What's your policy? What's your target and goals?" We had none. So starting from there to the questions we asked by customers, by various analytics, by rating agencies, is where it's gone through. Now we got a fantastic diversity ratio, and it's again one of the most sustainable companies. Talk of the CRISIL ratings most time. This is how this journey went. Orchid, another pharma company, mergers and acquisitions happen a lot. Acquired, Ajanta Pharma is acquired by Orchid, acquired by Hospira, acquired again by Pfizer. And how Pfizer did the entire transition, how it not only did a proper due diligence, but also helped the entire supply chain, all the suppliers get into the journey, into maturity, is also a story of how ESG kind of starts here. I mentioned Tata's, a project company where a project is 9 months. There's nothing much you can do. The design is part of the client scope. How can you do anything? But this is where I think the group convinced them, and companies that competed with L&T, etc., convinced to do the major maiden sustainability report, including assurance in its first report. So from simplify, create, sustain is how the journey came here. So the group companies, for some of us, are part of the group companies, and that's where the pressure comes in from the big brothers up there to mandate your journey there. I spoke about the IPO listing of Sterling and Wilson Solar, an emerging world's biggest solar company, with some lockdown learnings, creating a sustainable organization, baselining the carbon footprint, the carbon abatement, and net carbon neutrality in its first year of reporting with assurance. But how did we do it? We did it because of customers calling it a pre-qualification. After the IPO, global funding, the IFCs, all of these, the World Bank wanting a sustainable organization, and that's what journey was started in these companies there. Spoke about rating, a poor rating, got these companies to understand why they're not open and transparent disclosures, what helps from the S&P Global, a major thrust now. This company has moved a lot in progress there. In BSR reporting, again, the SEBI gave a big push on BRSR reporting. That's what got companies like Blue Star into the sustainability journey. Net carbon neutral, even in iron and steel sectors, tough to abate sectors, using hydrogen for green steel. Again, that's some challenges that companies have taken here. And like I said, a 40-year-old mine where I went to, I worked in a company called, it's called Rossing Uranium. It's a Rio Tinto company. How does the push for life extension, entire life cycle assessment, So I guess this is again a small connect. What I'm trying to do is not so much speak about my journey, but talk about the 4 decades. And I speak about my journey, it's 4 decades of ESG. And this is how we can see where sustainability comes from. The root, the source, it can come from a customer, it can come in from a client, it can come in from the market, it can come from an investor, the regulator, or it can be business contingency, it can come in from a safety generation, it can come in from a compliance. So all of these, or the recycling, the typical good old way, this is how sustainability really is important for all of us. I hope this demystifies sustainability in some ways. This helps you understand a context of what ESG is all about here. So friends, we spoke about this. One of our participants here has done something good. She's got a nice prize here. Soumya, Soumya, this is for you. A speech that happened some time back. And let's hear who this is from.
For the next 2 weeks of COP26, we will speak about our future, deadlines, milestones, hopes, and fears. I, however, am not here to speak about the future. I am the future. Me and my generation will live to see the consequences of our actions today. Yet none of what we discuss today seems practical to me. You are deciding whether or not we will have a chance to live in a habitable world. You are deciding whether or not we are worth fighting for. I want to act. I'm not just a girl from India. I'm a girl from Earth, and I'm proud to be so. Today, I ask, with all due respect, that we stop talking and start doing. We, the Earthshot Prize winners and finalists, need you to back our innovations, projects, and solutions, not an economy built on fossil fuels, smoke, and pollution. And finally, just remember, when it comes to climate change, there is no stop button. We can't hit pause or even rewind. We can only move together towards the future. So, united we rise, and together we will definitely succeed. Thank you.
That's the story. This actually is Vinisha Shankar, the ESG princess. Soumya, this is one. Hats off to you. Well done on what you do. Close to Salem in Tamil Nadu, a rising star here. But I guess the global lexicon, we spoke about this definition of the developed nations and the developing nations. And we spoke about some of the companies from Europe being the global north. Developed nations, high emitters in the past, including starting from the Industrial Revolution, but limited climate actions. And the global south is developing nations, low emitters in the past, and the economic prosperity is kind of critical here. The change has happened now because the actions taken by the developed nations is not really matching the damage done. And you can speak of one major superpower that's kind of backtracked on the journey. Yes, talking of Trump and US. But also there is the island nations, the low emitters in the past, who are highly vulnerable to climate change. Speak about that, understand that a bit. But then there's also the terminology of the global middle. The developing nations in the past, not much of emission, but now the economic prosperity is critical and high emitters of today. India, China, growing up the ladder here. So again, that's why the lexicon is changing and the action that we take need to be done by everyone out here. So I guess, how does it all work together? Typically, we speak about sustainability at various conferences. We speak about environmental sustainability. Let's pause and look at how this impacts and what the actions, as Vinisha said, can help. One of the typical conference of parties, typical UN events where everyone goes in flying in jets and talks about climate change. Here comes, Tino.
You okay? You need a minute? Cool. Listen up, people. I know a thing or two about extinction. And let me tell you, and you'd kind of think this would be obvious, Going extinct is a bad thing. And driving yourselves extinct in 70 million years, that's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. At least we had an asteroid. What's your excuse? You're headed for a climate disaster. And yet every year, governments spend hundreds of billions of public funds on fossil fuel subsidies. Imagine if we had spent hundreds of billions per year subsidizing giant meteors. That's what you're doing right now. Think of all the other things you could do with that money. Around the world, people are living in poverty. Don't you think helping them would make more sense than, I don't know, paying for the demise of your entire species? Let me be real for a second. You've got a huge opportunity right now. As you rebuild your economies and bounce back from this pandemic, this is humanity's big chance. So here's my wild idea. Don't choose extinction. Save your species before it's too late. It's time for you humans to stop making excuses and start making changes. Thank you.
We'll talk of a couple of things here and understand the context. This session is going to give you a different perspective, and I hope that you will take it in the proper spirit there. Understanding sustainability. What does sustainability actually mean? And I guess Shankar in some way nailed the entire definition. This came in from 1987, the United Nations Brundtland Commission defined sustainability as meeting the needs of the present without compromising on the ability of the future generations to meet their own needs. As she said, the Earthshot Prize winner, we not inherited the world from our ancestors, forefathers. We kind of borrowed it from our grandchildren, the next generation here. The ISSB defines this as the ability of organizations, corporates to manage resources and relationships and manage the dependencies and impacts within its own business ecosystem over the short, medium, and long term. The definition of the short and medium and long term has changed over times. What you talk of a medium term now is become a short term in this current generation. Sustainability is a loaded word. If you look at the definition out here, the ability to be maintained at a certain role or level is what it talks about. Avoidance of depletion of natural resources could be another. This is what dictionary says, and it's fairly right there here. It again means what it means in the context. It depends on the context here. For example, here, the journey of ESG, and we speak about 40 years of ESG. ESG, the term wasn't there in the 1980s. It's more about environment, health, and safety. And again, that's what we spoke about, the development of regulations, compliances, and that's what we understood about the Pollution Control Board and the various norms on health and safety. Of course, with the Health and Safety Labor Standards and this Factory Acts in 1948. But this is where it began. Until the 1990s, the focus on reducing environmental impacts, going beyond legal requirements, is where sustainability, the term, came to be coined. 20,000 to the Y2K, and the terms that came in, various terms, the CSR, including the corporate social responsibility and the corporate sustainability reports, where philanthropy, employer volunteering became strong here. And finally, it's only in the 2020s that ESG finally is a holistic concept related to competitive advantage and risk and reward framework came to be known here. A lot of people still think that spending on CSR, whichever it is, nominating a sustainability manager. Some of you are safety/sustainability managers, planting trees on World Environment Day is what it is. But it's largely far more than that. The driving changes, policies, the approach, the deployments, the refinement, assessment, learning, integration. It's a way of ESG excellence talking of here. And the journey of ESG has also had its journey across time from where it started in the GRI. It celebrates various occasions now, years, 25 years plus. And now the entire journey has come across. All the ratings and rankings on ESG evolution has been interesting here. Although it largely came in from a financial kind of genesis, this is where it kind of began. And this is how the journey has progressed there. A lot of changes happening as we speak here. But to demystify ESG once again at the start of this, various icons, in case each of the icons communicates the importance of its pillars. Environment, you speak about the trees, the environment, the biodiversity, the temperature, the global warming, and of course the recycling. To the social, about gender equality, diversity, families, homes, sustainable livelihoods, education, empowerment, and of course governance, the law, the compliance, the legal, the ethical, the frameworks that we have, the governance, and of course the going beyond the compliance there. So each of the elements have various perspective there. It's again, the question is, what does it sustain? To sustain the corporate context means what? There is so many things we need to sustain, from finances to compliance to relationships to humans to nature to intelligence. What is it speaking about here? And EHG kind of comes in each of these here. You can see the connect. We try to draw a connect between where environmental governance fits in financials, on compliance is all of these three. Humans is the social part of it, the social fabric is the heart of what we speak out here. We'll try and understand which are the critical pillars, but trust me, on E on nature, all of us are fairly correlated. So this is how you would map sustainability and ESG with various pillars there. For various people, ESG brings into mind issues like climate change and, of course, social responsibility, but it implies much more. On environment, it talks of the climate change, carbon and energy, the natural resources, the water, the biodiversity, the raw materials, emissions, air, water, waste, hazardous, non-hazardous waste. On the environmental, the opportunities, the clean techs, the clean buildings, the renewable energies transition. The social also, the human capital involvement, the stakeholder engagement, the heart of what we do. If there's anything that we speak about on ESG, is about engaging the stake, identifying and engaging the stakeholders, and then of course moving to social opportunities, product stewardship, and governance speaks about the board, the ownership, the accountability that comes in, the tone from the top, the business integrity, cyber security, business governance, ESG governance, lead indicators, lag indicator, the tone at the top. This is what ESG actually is here. In some ways, it focuses on, and both these words are used interchangeably, although some people say sustainability talks more of the environmental, but ESG is holistic. Both of these kind of are similar here. The funds, and actually it began with the investment fraternity, where the funds that actual company could invest into making a business more environmentally friendly with ESG screening. And this actually was a tool to help investors assess the company and the risks it takes here. So friends, ESG actually was a tool to help an investor. And this is where the journey comes from. So it was the financial bottom line that really defined the beginning of ESG out here. And again, that's what it works out. The three pillars, therefore, combine in some ways to safeguard the environment, to inspire and support people, and to ensure integrity and management systems out here. The bottom line again, it creates long-term stakeholder value, not just shareholder, going beyond the entire stakeholders, the entire value chain, the suppliers, the customers, the employees, the contractors, the regulator, all of these form part of the stakeholders, managing risk and embracing opportunities by optimizing the ESG bottom line is what this speaks about here. And what's climate action? Climate action is, of course, not just attending the conference of parties or going for a conference, winning prizes. It's actually understanding the heart of emissions. A lot of people, we had a chat yesterday with one of the big prosperous companies there. We said, why scope 3? Why is it relevant? Is it mandatory at all? So understanding going beyond the mandate, going beyond compliance is what it's all about, talking of circular economy. They say that, unless we take action, the why of ESG, future generations will be roasted, toasted, fried, and grilled out here. So friends, this is an interesting story out here. And this talks about why. And this is humanity's top risks here, the top existential concerns. And as we speak, all these events are fine. But currently, the threat we are all living with, what is the current existential concern for all of us? All these 10-year scenarios, 20-year scenarios, have they been able to project the real business continuity, the crisis happening there? Top concern there, a lot of us drinking straw from a soggy straw to save the planet, and there's a world war going in. There are people here from the Middle East who are struggling now. The widening Gulf, as they say, आपका गैस सिलेंडर कतार में है, आपको wait करना पड़ेगा. The big war affected countries that were not really involved in the crisis here. Now, one country attacks another and the world is broken free to another race here. And the war, as they say, the war. आज मेरे पास घर है, गाड़ी है, बंगला है, आपके पास क्या है तुम्हारे पास? And maybe some of you have a piped gas line or a gas agency, but this is where it works here. And the Choti Si love story speaks about this beautiful Indian gas cylinder there. So things have changed. The entire world is changed. Friends, the planet versus the people, it's a big myth there. For those of you who got children on the call, kind of please censor this. A very interesting talk about the world. Saving the planet is not a lot of us say. We're all green evangelists. We say, let's save the planet. Let's listen to George Carlin. He speaks at $1 a minute. But listen to what he's saying. Blank out some of the cuss words, friends. Apologies for that. Listen to this.
I like a lot of chemical additives in the things I eat and drink. See, I'm not one of these people who's worried about everything. You got these people around you. Country's full of them now. People walking around all day long, worried about everything. Worried about the air, worried about the water, worried about the soil. Worried about pesticides, insecticides, food additives, carcinogens, worried about radon gas, worried about asbestos. worried about saving endangered species. Let me tell you about endangered species, all right? Saving endangered species is just one more arrogant attempt by humans to control nature. It is arrogant meddling. It's what got us in trouble in the first place. Doesn't anybody understand that? Interfering with nature. Over 90%, way over 90% of all the species that have ever lived on this planet, are gone. They're extinct. We didn't kill them all. They just disappeared. That's what nature does. They disappear these days at the rate of 25 a day, regardless of our behavior, I mean. Irrespective of how we act on this planet, 25 species that were here today will be gone tomorrow. Let them go gracefully. Leave nature alone. Haven't we done enough? We're so self-important. So self-important. Everybody's going to save something now. Oh, save the trees, save the bees, save the whales, save those snails. And the greatest arrogance of all, save the planet. What? Are these fucking people kidding me? Save the planet? We don't know how to take care of ourselves yet. We haven't learned how to help one another. We're going to save the fucking planet? I am getting tired of that shit. I'm tired of fucking Earth Day. I'm tired of these fucking self-righteous environmentalists. I'm tired of these white, liberal, bourgeois, liberal, white people who think the only thing wrong with this planet is there aren't enough bicycle paths. Trying to make the world safe and clean for their Volvos. And I'm really sick of these rock stars and movie stars going to work off their cocaine guilt by saving a forest somewhere. Besides, there's nothing besides first of all, the environmentalists don't give a shit about the planet. They don't care about the planet. Not in the abstract, they don't. You know what they're interested in? A clean place to live. Their own habitat. They're worried that someday in the future they might be personally inconvenienced. Narrow, unenlightened self-interest doesn't impress me. Besides, there's nothing wrong with the planet. The planet is fine. The people are fucked. The people are fucked. Compared to the people, the planet is doing great. The planet has been here for 4.5 billion years, all right? 4.5 billion. We've been here, what, 100,000? Maybe. 200,000? Maybe. And we've only been engaged in heavy industry for a little over 200 years. 200 years versus 4.5 billion. And we have the conceit to think that somehow we're a threat, that somehow we're going to put in jeopardy this beautiful little blue-green ball that's just afloating around the sun. Planet has been through a lot worse than us for a long time. Been through earthquakes, volcanoes, plate tectonics, continental drift, solar flares, sunspots, magnetic storms, the magnetic reversal of the poles, bombardments for hundreds of thousands of years by comets and asteroids and meteors, sandstorms, erosion of all kinds, cosmic radiation, worldwide fires, worldwide floods, recurring ice ages. And we think some aluminum cans and some plastic bags are going to make a difference? Planet isn't going anywhere. We are.
So save the planet. I guess how was that, friends? So interesting, different take. Apologies for the expletives, but this is the story of the planet, and what he spoke about in an interesting journey of time is very relevant. I'm not sure if Trump endorses him, but let's look at the story of the planet in a timeline of a week here.
The story of planet Earth started 4.5 billion years ago. That is so long that it is hard to grasp. This is why we have summarized the history of our planet into a 6-day period, starting on Monday morning and ending at midnight on Saturday. It is the story during which our planet goes from being a lifeless mass in space to a lush planet that is home to millions and millions of different species. It's Monday morning, and Earth has just formed. All of Monday is spent making large geological changes to the environment. The Earth's atmosphere is extremely toxic, and there is no life on the planet. On Tuesday, nearly 1 billion years after the Earth was formed, life begins in the oceans of our planet. The blue-green algae are one of the very first cells to appear. They begin to clean away the toxic substances, and through photosynthesis, they also begin to slowly release oxygen. They start to make the Earth suitable for life. On Wednesday, cells start clumping together. Very simple multicellular organisms come to life. These photosynthetic organisms keep up the hard work of oxygenizing the atmosphere. Thursday comes. Plants begin to grow, speeding up the production of oxygen. The ozone layer also starts to form, protecting the Earth from the sun's harmful rays. Cells start diversifying, and so biodiversity increases. The first complex life forms arise on Friday. Sometime late on Friday evening, the first animal cells appear in our oceans. This happens more than 3 billion years after our planet was formed. On Saturday morning, the Earth is hospitable for more and more life forms.
Saturday now.
There is an oxygen-rich atmosphere and a protective ozone layer. Amphibians form legs and make their way onto land. Biodiversity is rapidly increasing. Coal starts to form, and the biosphere is step-by-step cleansed from toxic substances that are stored away into the Earth's crust.
Saturday afternoon.
It is now Saturday afternoon, and the big evolutionary party is about to start.
The party begins.
The first to arrive are the dinosaurs at about 4 in the afternoon. They stick around for about 6 hours before they have to go. Around 10, primates arrive to the party. We're now approaching midnight. At 11:55, apes start using stone tools. At 11:57, the first ancestral humans join in. 6 seconds before midnight, the modern human, Homo sapiens, arrive. 1.2 seconds before midnight, humans go from being hunter-gatherers to farmers. 1/3 of a second before midnight, Buddha. 1/4 of a second, Jesus. 1/40th, the Industrial Revolution. 1/80th, gasoline. And 1/200th, we learn how to split atoms.
So that's the story, the Big Bang. And you can see that we are one small part of the entire tapestry in the entire
Looking
week.
into the future, we can see that if we continue running society and industry the way we are today, it will only take us around 100 to 150 years, or a fraction of a second in the timeline of our story, to undo much of the work that has been done over billions of years and by millions of species to make the Earth habitable. There's something to think about.
So here's the story, and where we are in the entire journey is far, far away. And again, a lot of people debunk the entire climate change thing. Is it really caused by humans? Is it anthropogenic? Is the climate changing? Is the atmospheric conduction really changing? A few slides to say that, explain that the CO2 levels were never so high in 650,000 years. The entire temperature, the physical climate, is it changing? The oceans also are warming. The temperatures have been increasing during the 20th century. And over millions, and we speak about the dinosaurs, the Himalaya life form, the Homo sapiens in the journey that we spoke in the video. Across the journey here, from the last 60 million years, our Earth's climate actually has significantly cooled. You can see by the sheets that's coming, it's actually cooled, it's gone down. But as you see here, across the eras, the interglacial to the ice age to today, over the last 400,000 years, the Earth has gone through 4 ice ages. It's gone through 4 ice ages. So these are the natural variations of climate. What is this caused for? It's caused by various factors there. And these ice ages have shown that there have been a lot of current variability, natural variability, and these have various changes that's caused the centennial changes in the last 1,000 years. So the medieval the warm period, the little age of ice, and the industrial revolution have all kind of contributed. But the current warming is likely to be unprecedented, as we spoke about. How is it changing? The increase in GHGs and the various other theories also. The solar forcing is well known, but not enough. There's also volcanic eruptions. We spoke, George Kalain spoke about that in Fatafat Bolti Usne, but this is also not strong enough. Our understanding of natural variability on decadal and centennial timescales cannot account for this here. So despite all the theories, it's only the climate model by human forcing that can really account for climate change and the theory there. This is what throws up the theory that the global average surface temperatures is what is rising, and that's the reason why we are where we are. And the past 8 years have been the warmest. The global mean temperature has kind of shot up the roof here. The warmest years, every year is peak of that. And what a way to go to the World War. Challenges there where the attention is on the World War here, lots of other tensions. The climate impact also continues to ravage the world. Extreme weather events in India across the last 2 years, you can see that it's affecting India pretty strongly. Cyclones and earthquakes and floods. And again, across the globe, from Siberia to the wildfires there to Australia. And I was there in Australia when this began here and ended up in Namibia, where this was the Etosha rainforest, where the elephant, it killed elephants, storm fire just 6 months ago killed elephants, antelopes. So again, this is where the impacts of climate change are affecting us. The acidity of the surface ocean has increased by 30%. The ocean levels also are rising. And some of the islands we spoke about, the global south, these islands, some of them, including some parts of coastal India, might just be underwater in a few years there. And I guess India is among the top 3 nations with most natural disasters. So you can see out here that a lot of lives have been lost locally here. And if you look at the per capita cumulative emissions, you know, the cumulative carbon emissions is, India stands pretty low out here in loss and damage here. But the nations that are least responsible for global warming are the ones that's most vulnerable for change. And you talk of the combination of per capita emissions and the multiplication of the growing population, you can see India there is right there on the two of the entire tracking carbon emissions. So therefore, we also have a contribution now as part of the global middle here. So code red has been issued for humanity. It's getting hotter and hotter. A lot of you on the call, as we began, said it's hot across the country. The north, east, west sort of India is, and of course, there's Middle East and Singapore also. That's saying that there is challenges there, and there's been the affecting of climate across the world here. And there's been so many changes there. The sea level, as I said, rising above. All these are human made here. And finally, we say the tipping point of climate change. What is the tipping point? Where a series of small changes or incidents become significant to cause a much more important change here. That is what a tipping point is. A moment where something gains momentum. The tipping point is that kind of moment where a small development causes major changes. It's the point of no return. You put this right up the top and then it goes on a free fall here. This is where we are, the point of no return. And that's the reason why ESG is something that we need to be aware of. As we said, there is a plan B, but there is no planet B. Yeah, we have to go back to plan A as we speak of here. A nice story
If you,
on global warming. Listen carefully.
If you ask what determines the Earth's climate, clearly the main thing that determines it is sunlight. Sunlight is what heats the Earth. Not all the light that arrives at the Earth from the sun goes to heating the Earth. Some of it is reflected back. It's just the part that is absorbed. And what happens is there's a certain rate at which sunlight is absorbed by the Earth's surface, and there's a certain rate at which the Earth's surface radiates to space. What comes from the sun is in the ordinary visible part of the spectrum that our eyes are sensitive to. What the Earth radiates into space is in the infrared part of the spectrum, longer waves than red that our eyes are not sensitive to, but it's as legitimate, a form of light as the kind that we're used to. Now, if you calculate what the temperature of the Earth ought to be from how much sunlight is being absorbed, equaling how much infrared radiation would be radiated to space, you find that the Earth's temperature, by this simple calculation, is too low. It's about 30 centigrade degrees too low. And why is it too low? It's too low because something was left out of the calculation. What was left out of the calculation? The greenhouse effect.
Listen in now.
The air between us is transparent, except in Los Angeles and places of that sort, in the ordinary visible part of the spectrum. We can see each other. But if our eyes were sensitive at, say, 15 microns in the infrared, we could not see each other. The air would be black between us, and that's because, in this case, carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide is very strongly absorbing at 15 microns and other wavelengths in the infrared. Likewise, there are parts of the infrared spectrum where water vapor absorbs, where we could not see each other if we were only as far apart as we are in this room. If you add these infrared absorbing gases to a planet, then what happens is the sunlight comes in as before, but when the surface tries to radiate to space in the infrared, it is blocked, it is impeded by the absorbing gases. And so the surface temperature has to rise so that there is an equilibrium between what comes in and what goes out. So this is the greenhouse effect. It is a misnomer for more reasons than one. It's a misnomer in particular because that's not how the greenhouse works, but that's a very minor point. There are other gases which absorb in the infrared, many of which have been mentioned already: nitrous oxide, methane, the halocarbons, and these are products partly of agriculture, it's fertilizers, refrigeration, aerosol spray cans, and so on, all products of our technology. We don't generate much water into the atmosphere, but we certainly do generate a great deal of carbon dioxide through the burning of wood and fossil fuels, and apparently benign activity. Who could object to humans burning oil and coal, gas, and wood? I'd like to stress.
Interesting story here. The question is here, he speaks about global warming, and this is something that we all speak about, the ozone layer, the greenhouse gas emissions. Question, this is where this quiz time for the audience. Who was the speaker? Where was this? And when was this? So friends, all of you, all the 499, 500 now people in the chat box here, on the audience there, this nice entire description of what is global warming. Who was it? Who is this who spoke about global warming? Who gives the entire greenhouse effect impact? Is it anthropogenic? Is it natural? Is it because of what we're doing? Is it because of urbanization? Is it because of land use? Is it because of greenhouse gases? He explains nicely how the solar radiation passes through the clear atmosphere, how it's absorbed by the earth layer that warms it, and some of it is reflected back, and some of these that's absorbed and re-emitted, and some of the effect of the infrared radiation that is held back here. That is how the entire climate change goes up, the entire equilibrium. The higher GHG concentrations increases the re-radiation of energy of infrared radiation towards the Earth's surface, decreasing the outward flow, and the overall equilibrium, the average terrestrial temperature rises until a new equilibrium is created. And the GHG gases listed them out because the physical properties, they largely determine the temperature of the Earth here. So that is the natural greenhouse effect, where there's a good balance there. The temperature is okay. And it's actually good because otherwise our temperature will be far lower. But the human enhanced greenhouse effect is what causes the entire change out here. So friends, question here, who was it? When? Audience, this is where you can participate in. The next 20 minutes, we're going to speak about decision making. This is what we want you to do. When was this? Who was this? Well, let's get to when was it? Was it in 1985, 95? Let's give some options. 25, 2025, 2015. Which year was this entire video we played that talks about global warming? A lot of you are understanding the impact of global warming. Chat box guys, all of you people in the chat box here, Abhinav, Siddharth Rana, Raj Pandian, all of you please. Sachin, you got the 1983 World Cup right. You cracked this. And the winner of this competition gets an invite for family to the IPL finals, the grand IPL finals, yeah, at the iconic stadium there. Anybody here? Who was this? Which year is this? 1985. Siddharth Rane, well done, well done. You cracked that right. Actually, it was in 1985. Well done. Soumya gets the Student of the Year award. Siddharth gets to kind of the close to this. The next question, who was it and where was it? Finish that and you get the IPL passes. Yeah, but well done. I think Siddharth Rana and Soumya, well done. You cracked this year, the most difficult sustainability quiz. This actually was a scientist called Carl Sagan testifying before the US Congress in 1985 on climate change. So think of it, guys. It's not something recent. It's something we all knew. It's nothing that is, something that's come up now. And this is something that we all should be aware of, that this greenhouse effect and what he spoke about atmosphere linkages and the impact of these. And also he spoke about the fossil fuels, how it emits carbon dioxide, how it's trapped in the atmosphere, how it retains the heat, and it causes severe climatic changes, which results in global warming here. So this is where we are at the carbon crossroads in life, how the future can be impacted. And the choices we have is about how we can do continue business as usual, do some mitigation, do strong mitigation, or do some aggressive mitigation. And this is the actions there on the right, what we can do, more of what we can do to reduce the impact of climate change here. But they say here, whichever, and the RCP is the representative conservation pathway. Whatever the efforts we do, higher efforts, higher emission pathway, the higher emission or the lower emission pathway, whichever the pathway we choose, aggressive or benign or business usual, the GHG, we call CO2 is measured, it's all in the measure of CO2 equivalent. The CO2 concentrations are projected to rise in all the emission scenarios. So again, as the words of George Colline, we are doomed there. So again, this explains the climate change very nicely in a one slide here, from where it began from the Industrial Revolution, last from 17th centuries, from 1750s. But again, not just limited to the industries, also the livestock, the animals, the methane that it produces, and of course the man-made effects of carbon fluorocarbons, which has a high lifetime there, how the CO2 levels from 1750 has gone higher there. Some interesting theories about the GG gases, the carbon dioxide, the methane, the nitrous oxide, all of these also add up there. Interestingly, snow caps melting, there's more and more lakes that's coming in Switzerland now each year. That's because of the melting of icebergs. Ice reflects 90% of the ultraviolet radiation. Water absorbs 90%. So more of the glaciers that melt here, the more of water that gets formed, the more of heat that gets absorbed there. So that's where the global warming could get affected there. So fine balance is what we speak, the effort that we do. The transitions, we understood the global warming very well. I think all of you are now masters on the greenhouse effect here. The three major challenges still, the energy security, you're struggling for gas now, the Iran, Israel, and of course the Ukraine war, the tensions, the geopolitics, the costs have really made a crisis there. But we speak about the long and short of ESG, the profits, the people, and the planet. And again, there's the triple bottom line. You all know the triple bottom line. Profits also equivalent to the prosperity they say here. But then there's also the purpose, the reason why organizations as a culture, the prepared leadership, that is the fourth bottom line. What you do and how you do the leadership, the alignment with the governance is what works here. This is called the quadruple bottom line. It calls the purpose as the fourth pillar here, which is, say, a cause without an inspiring purpose. It kind of fades into away from active consideration. The purpose has to be well aligned, and that is what it's talking about here. And currently, we speak about the purpose. We also speak about the reservation. It's everyone for ourselves for jobs. AI is taking a job. Business usual is different. Career is usual. We're looking at how to eat, what to do. So this is where the long and short of EG kind of talks about the triple bottom line and the actions thereof. Where is this current generation headed? Let's show you a small video. We'll end with this. This is about something that happened in Unilever some years back and how the people, this generation reacted here. It happened in Kodaikanal. How did Kodaikanal respond? What was the generation? How did the next P come in? The sixth P.
Kodaikanal won't. Kodaikanal won't. Kodaikanal won't step down till you make amends now. This is the story of Kodai's frustration, known to us as the princess of hill stations. Unilever came and left devastation as they exposed the land to contamination. So here's the story. They set up a thermometer factory where workers handle toxic mercury. They dump their waste in the local shrubbery. Now that's some toxic shit. By the way, what they say, that the factory was safe as day. They don't trust a word of what the workers say. What about the polluting, the mercury poisoning? It's life threatening. There's kids suffering. Poison in the soil. You don't have a soil. You clean up for the sham. There's poison in the air. You ain't done. Go.
That's about Kodaikanal rocking. And as a case study here, located in Kodaikanal, 1982, owned by Ponds India, a cosmetic maker, went into Unilever, big brand there, acquired from Cheeseborough Ponds globally. And they actually imported mercury from the US and exported finished thermometer back. And the entire problem came when in the Shola forest, 3 kilometers away, is when residual mercury was found here. A big story there, you can go on here, but from 2001, it's been shut down, public protest, and the challenges of these. Suffice to say, the global brand, also big brand, also can be brought down by the power of protest. So this, P friends, is protest. NGOs, organizations, even companies like Shell, the majors, how we are in the oil and gas industry, all these is kind of highlighting the malpractice on sustainability there. In the words of Warren Buffett, it takes 20 years to build a reputation and just 5 minutes to ruin it. And again, coming down to what we spoke about, the decisions we make. What is the decisions we make here? Decision making is a cognitive step-by-step process, evaluating alternatives, and we're speaking about decisions about life and death as we speak, to reach a particular goal here, right? Is that right? Is there a generational shift of choices there across? And some of us are perhaps generation X, 65 to 80, some the millennials, generation Y, 1981 to 96, the Zoomers, generation Z, 97 to 2012, and the generation Alpha. The old guys are the golden generation, the lost generation as we speak, the silent generations and the baby boomers one before. So each of these has a different choices here. And the importance of the sustainability brand across consumers is kind of mapped against each of these generations. You can see it's growing, the impact there. A lot of people would change preferences to going for organic food, to going for green, to going for lower sourced carbon footprint, which could be expensive, but sustainable methods are kind of changing there. As McKinsey says, Gen Z is now looking at other measurements of success other than solely profits. As the Gen Z adult population increases, I think we'll have a greater emphasis on ESG metrics for success out here. And again, as we see here, some of you from Bangalore on the call here, what does this stand for? ESCN. Maybe a double asterisk here. E Sala Cup Namdu. And we won the cup. The men also followed the women here. One of the matches they play every year for the IPL tickets, I think Siddharth and friends, yeah, ESG. Soumya, thank you so much. This has a green match, Soumya. It is a green cricket match where the entire thing you look at lowering the carbon footprint here. It's not just the boys, it's also the girls. Is that the right RCB captain? Oh, sorry, that is Rashmika Mandana. But Smriti Mandana, perhaps this team hasn't done as much here. But the diversity, inclusion, the entire gender diversity also needs to be mapped here. It's about green tournaments and how the green can be the focus in terms of driving what works, including sports here. So then, what is the relevance of ESG for decision making? See, a myopic or a short-sighted thrust is a threat to the market's viability. We spoke about long term, short term. The obsession with short term financial results, and we speak about investment, we say that mutual funds may lage raho. And again, they say, trust them. Long, you got to think long term here. But there are lots of short term results. Asset management funds and corporates really try to look at how they can redeem these and the destruction of long term value, decrease market efficiency, and lower investment returns. And again, that's the bottom line that we speak in all of the trusts that we see, mutual funds, and say or not, if we don't have to discuss. Short-term financial focus is a flawed view, is what they say. We need to stop maximizing profit and start maximizing value. How do you do that? Here's a chart for the global look at wealth and happiness. Where does this come in? And again, all of us esteemed professionals, some of you EHS, ESG, some of us leaders there. Where is it that we look at here? What is this matrix out here? On the x-axis, the wealth per adult, and the y-axis is the happiness score out here. So the poor and unhappy are at the lower end of this, and the rich and happy are at the top end. You can see most of the sustainable countries, in fact, the people that launched the original one report, etc., 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 are all there in the top. Maybe the Scandinavian countries and those parts, Denmark, Netherlands, Luxembourg, Iceland, Australia, all the Belgium, they are part of the rich and happy people here. And where is India? Somewhere there in the center. So this is where again the journey comes through. I had an interesting discussion. I had normally go out for events. I had gone in for a small play there. And this is one of the persons who was there speaking at an event here. So friends, another question to all of us here. Where is this snapshot from? A famous actor, the actor, Nasruddin Shah. Which movie is this from and what is this moment? Question to all of you for the IPL final tickets. You kind of come close, Siddharth and Soumya. Which movie is this and what is the moment? What is the question being asked out here? We'll come to the relevance here. Anyone here on the audience? Go for it. There's a person in the backdrop who is a clue, his biological son. And this happens in a country which is there on the happiness index in Spain here. And the come of age movie before the flood, that's close. Anyone else? So Rajesh cracks it again. Rajesh gets the golden award, gets the golden prize. It is Zindagi Na Milegi Dobara, where Farhan Akhtar goes in looking for his biological father. He's kind of turned him away, but he goes in and asks him. And then Nasruddin Shah's father asks him, "Tum karte kya ho?" And he says, "I'm a copywriter in an advertising agency," which is a very innovative and a kind of role all of us would die for here. And the question he asked then is, "Apne liye kya karte ho? What do you do for yourself?" So again, in talking of happiness and stuff we do, super achievement, it's also about that moment in life. Thank you, Rajesh. Your pass is coming your way. What do you do for yourself? What do you do for a living? What is it that you do? The Maslow hierarchy of needs. How do you reach the last level of self-actualization is what this talks about here. So friends, whether you go skydiving in Seville or scuba diving or do a tomato in a festival. Let's get to the bottom line here. How do we make this work here? The triple bottom line, the environmental, social, and financial or governance. What is this triple bottom line of governance financial? It talks about the revenue growth, productivity, return on investment, profit margins, capital costs, risk management, valuation of the enterprise if listed, and appeal to the investors, which is all began here. It's measured by a nicer word than profits called prosperity, economic prosperity. Quarter se quarter tak, you measure it by the economic performance there. The social is measured by the community impact, social impact, health and safety. Critically, the critical bottom line, if you spoke at the beginning, compensation, equal opportunity, education, and recognition here. And measured by the social equity and reported by the social performance. The environmental or the operational aspect looks at energy, water, materials, emission, waste, operational excellence, design efficiencies, new products, service opportunities, life system impacts, process improvements, called environment stewardship, measured by the environmental performance out here. So friends, the bottom line that looks at the financial is called the viable. The one that looks at the social is called the equitable. And the one that is called the operational is the bearable out here. So typically, the viable is the financial, the equitable is the social, and the bearable is the planet or the environmental. If you want to look at each of these triple bottom line, the soft spot here is the one in between. It's the one that is sustainable out here. So this is what is the measurement of all of these put together in a holistic manner here. And that is what is called a measure by a sustainable framework called the ESG performance. So in some ways here, friends, this is the one slide that I want you to leave with. A sustainable or ESG performance is measured by asking questions. Is the decision viable? Does it meet the return on investment? Is it equitable? Is it having impact on the community? Is it favorable? You can't do a business impacting people, killing people. And also looking at the operational or the environmental, how is it bearable on the planet? Is it deplete the resources or does it enhance them or does it kind of make them bit here? So this, friends, is what we call the ESG. These three factors together help determine the quality of governance and risk management that are the processes in any country or organization here. They provide, like I said, for the investors, a long-term prospect of companies and are used by investors to make informed decisions here. So this, friends, is the triple bottom line. The addition of the social and the environment to the traditional economic is what it says. And this is also what we call the people, planet, and profits here. Okay. So this is the triple bottom line. And for us here, we need to then make decisions. Any decision you make, setting up a new plant, putting up a new structure, changing from CFLs to halogens to planting more trees or setting up a new industry or making a decision on people, you got to wear the hat of the CFO and ask, typically as they say, kitna deti hai? What is the return on investment? Is the decision viable? You also got to wear the hat of the people, the CHRO, the people's officer, and say, is the decision equitable? Equitable, it's good for all. Diversity, equity, inclusion. And finally, wear the hat of the chief operating officer to ask, is the decision bearable? So this is the important lesson. ESG is a tool for decision making. As for investor or for any of you who want to invest in the stock market, this helps you make a balanced decision. This may not go in a 33%. It's about, obviously it depends, but this is where you got to understand and make that fine hotspot to understand what works well here. So all of us need to wear the hat of the CEO of the MD of the company and take inputs from the CFO, the CHO, or CEO on what everyone to behave as this year. So this, friends, is the art of decision making. To summarize the long and short of this entire session, it's a formal strategy to address the ESG parameters. It's additional social and environmental to traditional economic and is embraced by corporates to holistically monitor long-term sustainability measured to the triple bottom line, the profits or the prosperity, planets and people, managing risks by embracing opportunities through optimizing of the ESG bottom lines. And question for us is the connector of the bottom line initiatives for any enterprise with the factors helping determine the quality of governance and risk management in the company, provides insights on long-term prospects, medium or long-term, we can call it, used by investors and customers and other stakeholders to make informed decisions. For any decision take, friends, anything, you look at any decision, ask for the triple bottom line. The three C's, the litmus test, is it equitable, is it bearable, and is it viable? So the focus again, as we said, sustainable development to meet the needs of the present without compromising on the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. So, friends, a pause, very important for all of us. This is the triple bottom line. You got to wear the hat of the CFO, the CHRO, and the CEO to think like the CEO and make decisions, and that will get you the bang of the buck. ESG has many benefits, but all of these, be it reputation, risk reduction, revenue opportunities, reduce the risk, enhance published image, reduced regulatory issue, all of the betterment of society. It aids investment in all kind of sectors there. And this is where the opportunity helps in getting ABC. So finally, to summarize the ABC of sustainability, A is for air, the air that we breathe. Some of you coming from the capital, Mumbai, etc., having a poor AQI, protecting our air quality, protecting our health, biodiversity, it's all interrelated. The vibrant mix of all life forms, we went through all of it, the dinosaur to wherever in the life form here. Climate change, we heard of this from Carl Sagan himself. Deforestation, how we can ensure that we can contribute to greenhouse gas emission reduction by deforestation. The biggest carbon sink is for the tree here. The next World War, this year, will be fought on water. Ensuring that the water efficient landscape is done here. You play a major role in that. In the end of the day, it's also goal zero, zero waste. So friends, powering a sustainable future together, sustainability, everyone, we are at the talk of midday, noon. So happy to pause for questions. Any questions in the chat box, please free to ask, friends. And thank you, Soumya. Thank you, Rajesh. Thank you, Siddharth, for active participation. All of you guys, questions in the chat box. Happy to address any question that you have on all that we've gone through here. How much time do you have the questions? We've got 15 minutes. 15 minutes of the questions, friends, and then you can pick up, get your gas fires going and look for your lunch. Questions, friends?
I can go ahead, Shankar. I just had a question that how we as professionals here, all of us who are here, how we can influence and make the next generation or whoever with whom we are working, more aware of it. And I know somewhere what we should do, but still, from your experience, from what you have seen, because the coffee tables, the travel, the conferences, everywhere we meet, what we all who are here, what we can do as one thing from the crux of everything which you have shared, with the right balance of humor and stress and pain and the World War forecast, Shankar.
Yeah. So that's the reason why I think the art of storytelling, because people in this generation will not be able to really connect with a lot of what we say. I spoke about the journey in terms of, how I was able to connect sustainability with some 12, 13 avatars of mine. So telling a story and putting the answer first. This Priyanka, right? I had a long chat with GV Prasad to get the journey of sustainability UN Global Compact started. I had a 50-slide presentation, and he was going for the World Economic Forum meeting. And his secretary Raju said, you just have 10 minutes, that's about it. You can't get 1 hour that you want. Option was either I leave it, and then he had his son's marriage after he came back, lost him here. So went in, I had this one slide here which I projected, just 5 minutes. And then he said, how is this possible? And then I went back to slide number 49. And this is how, why? And then came back to 48. So actually I took 1 hour and went from front to back. So about positioning, it's about doing things right. And we also were part of the, we started the CI Green Business Center. We started the CI Green Co Awards. Again, there are people who might not really be clued in. There are leaders also who might not know the understanding of green. We had a green cricket match with the Pollution Control Board, which we won, sadly. But making them understand the impact of that, the connects, I think that's the important thing here. The other story, of course, is, as we said in the beginning, ESG as a story. ESG also the big story there, but safety, and for the health and safety professionals, health is the heart of getting ESG. So getting this safety done through ESG, because getting governance, if you want a review for safety, ESG is kind of mandated now in the board and the SEBI relatives. So if you're able to get this through that, you're able to do that well here. So I guess that is one of the ways here. Understanding, asking stories, connecting, making it conversation, making it interesting. Like I said, some of the videos here might not be relevant, might be sacrilegious. George Kalani kind of speaks up there, but you got to present the contra view. You got to see both sides. As green evangelists, like you can't be blinkered. We need to be open. Be, of course, sense of humor is incidental. That's the way I am. The only place to be serious, I think, is in the ICU. But that apart, trying to make it conversational. looking at the audience, not trying to go with listening is the biggest thing. I think stakeholder engagement or listening. Normally, all of us go in with a pitch to the leader, to the boss, to the audience, to a customer. I do a lot of consulting the last few years. I am with the NII. If I do consulting, I am with the head of governance for ratings there. A lot of truth doesn't kind of come out. A lot of nice things said on every report. Every sustainability report has something nice to say. If you want to get to the heart of it, if you want to the reality, what's there behind that, you got to get into this, not the coffee table conversation, but the pantry coffee conversations. Getting to familiar with people to know the reality there. Of course, there is the ethical way of doing it, but if you're able to do that, we'll get the real truth. And that's where I think you got to break the ice and make things open and transparent. Openness and transparency is not something we're given to. Everyone is scared in India, especially one of the companies I worked with. Said, why is India so, why even the FDA is kind of our openness, transparency, integrity always scared of. Nobody tells the truth, right? And it comes out in the FDA audit only. But getting openness and transparency also is a way. Art, trust, leadership, accountability, building in the accountability again is important. There's the RASI we speak about, the responsibility, accountability, getting the leaders, the owners of getting ownership well defined. That also helps in implementation because understanding the approach, getting it right, implementation is the biggest challenge. I hope this answers some of the questions.
Yep. No, absolutely, Shankar. Thank you. Thank you for that response. And if I summarize it, I think varied communication and clarity in terms of what you're expecting, foreseeing, expecting, and bringing it into different forms, shapes, how you ensure that the communication reaches and proper confrontation, acceptance, situational agility, everything comes into play. So thank you once again, Shankar, for the summary. Thank you.
Somebody's noted what you said because that's the perfect answer. So one of the last things I did when I went in for a couple of interviews, I had there's a big report we used to do. Dr. D is reporting sustainability for 20 years. We did the first 24-page, report here. And whenever somebody asked me, what do you do? Kya karte ho? What's your profile? I didn't give the CV. I gave the 24-page report here. It's a nice 24-page summary. It's beautiful. Reaching beyond is what we titled it. In some ways, understanding the audience, knowing what the perception, the requirement there is, getting the shoes of the audience, the customers, who the target audience is a large part of making EHS and ESG work here. Thanks for that input. Thanks for the summary. You're better than AI in that.
Any more questions from the audience?
Before it gets hotter and hottest.
Yeah, but I think we're happy to get more questions so that you get benefit of Shankar being here with a vast experience. Welcome. Any questions? You can type the question in the chat box. Yeah, Rajesh.
Rajesh, I think thanks Soumya, thanks Khushbu. So I guess the rapid move away from fossil fuels. India also taken a net carbon target, and a lot of industries got out from carbon. Coal is still back. So energy security is the biggest challenge. There have been part of energy transitions, L&T, the hydrocarbon industry, the kind of oil and gas, also the carbon light solutions that come into field. I did a business excellence for them. So there's a big challenge there. Shell also had this backlash against drilling oil and gas. Is that so? Yes, there is a challenge there, Rajesh. There is no right answer to that. The evolution, the question he asks is, the narratives on these, I think geopolitical conflict, energy security, and renewed political support, including sponsorship. Yeah, we're waiting for Trump to go, but then will he have done enough collateral damage by the time he has? So does the evolution challenge the cricket? It does. It does challenge the cricket. That's why if you projected today, if you see in the session, we didn't just give one blinkered view of one side. We didn't greenwash. We didn't kind of give an evangelist view only. We did give both sides here. So Rajesh, you're right. The narratives have changed. It's also important, apart from what Priyanka just asked, to be reactive, to be adaptive, because climate change adaptation, we spoke about that last time, is also important. It's not just managing, but also adapting to the climate change in the way of the changing world here. Sachinji, any clarity on how much awareness of ESG safety is there in the family-owned units? Very low. So I once went into a business, a pharma business, a major good pharma business, doing pretty well, and I projected a map and said, this is 80% focus on the environmental, 25% focus on the governance, and the 4 to 5% on social. The MD of the company jumped up and said, what do you mean? We have to focus on social. This has to be about people. This is the most thing. For me, is the most important part. Your initials are matching with you. And then I said, "So this is from your sustainability report. This is your materiality matrix. This is what you've done." And you were shocked to the core. So the MD of the company and the entire board over there almost looking at their own materiality matrix of the previous year and saying that this is absolutely not acceptable. So yes, family-owned businesses have low clarity, low awareness. You've got to demystify them. And that's the reason why it's also about making a pitch, explaining to them, simplifying it. I spoke about Professor Bakul Dholakia, starting from zero to taking us beyond the Havalas and taking it to what economics mean, econometrics. Important to make this very simple there. Thank you, Priyanka. Wonderful session, wonderful summary at all. Soumya, in short term, fossil fuels still be used. Yes, fossil fuels, there is, but you got to switch on and switch off. You got to switch, and you got to switch to renewables. Various forms coming up, and slowly the other forms also will be kind of tested. But I guess renewables is the core. The low emissions remains the core goal. Absolutely, that's the only way it goes here. We spoke about the charts there going from where we are to where we are. In all the scenarios, the consolidation pathways says that we are going for a toss. There is, we are up shit creek without a paddle. That's the reason there. Thank you, Sachin. Thank you, Priyanka. Thank you, Soumya. Any other questions, folks?
Any more questions from audience?
Otherwise, we say to all of you across the geographies, wherever you come from, thank you guys from Singapore, from the Middle East, from Australia, from USA also somebody is joined here, and from India, global roles also. Shukran, appreciate your time. And they say that without it, there is no future. Thank you so much. My coordinates in case you want to ask more.
Thank you, Shankar. Thank you very much for taking out time for OHSSAI and enlightening our people. And thank you, my friends. Thank you, all the participants, those who are connected. And I hope that there was a good learning to each one of us. Let us use this knowledge in our profession and let us bring some positivity in the world that we live. Thank you once again to everybody. A big thank you and thumbs up to everybody. Thank you.
Thumbs up, everybody.
Have a great
Thank
day.
you, Sachin.
Good
Thank you, everybody.
weekend.
Thank you. Thank you, Shai.
Thank you so much.
Guys.